welcome to Lights Camera Reactions. So today we're going to be reacting to another video by WatchMojo, and it is called 10 Most Evil Real Life Friendships in History. So it seems like you guys have been really liking like the True Crime Tuesdays, so I figured I might just add a few extra true crime videos throughout the week as well, since it seems like that's what you guys like the most so far. If there are other videos or types of reactions you would like me to react to, just let me know down in the comment section. You can leave a link to a video that you would like me to react to, and I will get on that as soon as possible. I feel like this video should be pretty interesting, so let's go ahead and check it out and see if we've ever heard of any of these cases.
Burke and Hare decided to assist the processes of nature and thus speed up the supply of human flesh for the anatomists.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're looking at some of history's most depraved and damaging friendships.
McVeigh watched the drama unfold with his old army buddy, Terry Nichols, and Nichols' brother, James.
Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris.
Did you at any time ever use an ice pick? No, sir.
We wonder how many friendships have been made in prison. With both men having rough backgrounds, Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris met while serving time at the California Men's Colony, a state prison found north of Santa Barbara. They became close during their time inside, bonding over shared attitudes and personal histories, not to mention a common interest in dark fantasies.
You struck with
That sounds like a bad friendship waiting to happen.
Recall the sledgehammer which was introduced. Yes, sir, I recall.
The two talked about pairing up and murdering people after they were released, and that's exactly what they did. They were both paroled in the late 70s and quickly got to work, murdering 5 teenagers in 1979. Bittaker and Norris became known as the Toolbox Killers, named after the instruments they used to enact their sick fantasies.
When his tape recording of one murder was played in court, people rushed outside and vomited.
Viktor Sayenko and Igor Saprunyuk, known as the Dniepropetrovsk Maniacs. Ukrainian friends Viktor Sayenko and Igor Saprunyuk met in school and developed a close bond during their teenage years. The pair were sent to share an interest in dark and extreme content, and that certainly played out throughout the early summer of 2007, when the Maniacs murdered 21 people.
Durante el juicio son tratados como animales salvajes. Y no es para menos, están acusados de matar a 21 personas en solo 15 días.
And
the
just
two were
15
known to
days?
film some of their murders, and they reached worldwide
goodness.
infamy when one of these videos was leaked to the internet. It was an extremely disturbing piece of media that many still look back on with horror and regret. Both boys were eventually convicted of murder and both
so young.
received life sentences. Leonard Lake and Charles Ng.
Serial killing partners led.
So I thought this video was gonna be like friends that turned on each other, or like, you know, you see all the time like this friend took out this friend or something like that. I didn't think that this was gonna be a video of 2 crazy psychopaths becoming friends and doing these things together. So this is pretty crazy. I guess I just had a moment on kind of what I thought this video was gonna be. This is insane. I don't know, you just wouldn't think that there would be that many psychopaths out there for them to like meet each other and do these horrific crimes together. Like, I just feel like that's kind of crazy that they would group up and do these awful crimes together like this. And these are really bad. Like the last one, they were recording it as well. It probably was on the black market, because I know there's like sites where you could watch stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was on one of those sites or something like that. That's crazy. Let's see what the rest of these holds. These do seem like some older cases as well. These don't seem like anything newer, like modern day. A lot of these so far, I know we only watched 2 going into 3, but it looks like they're kind of older cases. But we'll see if there's any modern day in here as well.
Kenneth Lake was a former U.S. Marine with a deeply troubled psychological history, including apocalyptic beliefs. Charles Ng also served in the Marines and escaped from a military prison in the early 1980s while serving time for weapons theft. The two shared an interest in the outdoors, and they met after Lake put a personal ad in a magazine for survivalists.
Ng was in military detention, and he was reading a magazine, and there was an ad in this magazine Leonard Lake had placed in that, and he responded to this ad. So it was a real chance encounter.
Lake immediately took control of the friendship, with Ng referring to his new buddy as a, quote, brotherly, fatherly figure. The two eventually relocated to a remote property in Wilseyville, California, but their interests soon turned from hunting game to hunting humans. Together, they kidnapped and killed between 11 and 25 people at the remote cabin.
There was like a cell area that had been built into the back of the bunker, in which we later learned that they would keep female captives there for a period of time before killing them.
Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb.
To the perfect crime.
One of the most infamous criminal duos of the 20th century. The names Leopold and Loeb are synonymous with true crime. The two men grew up in the affluent Kenwood neighborhood of Chicago and developed a close, sometimes sexual friendship while attending the University of Chicago. They bonded over their shared intelligence and elitist worldview, with Leopold in particular growing obsessed with the concept of Nietzsche's Übermensch.
Immaculate murder. We've killed for the sake of danger and for the sake of killing. We're alive. Truly and wonderfully alive. Even champagne isn't equal to us or the occasion.
Believing that they were above conventional morality, they planned the perfect crime in the hopes of proving their superior intelligence. As such, they kidnapped and murdered teenager Bobby Franks on May 21st, 1924.
Only
the
a
crime
teenager.
wasn't so perfect. They were caught 8 days later.
I wish they'd hung us right off the bat.
Is that your only reaction, Artie? No remorse, no feeling of remorse?
I wasn't expecting you to fall down on your knees and thank God for deliverance.
Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold.
Would Dylan be a part of it? I couldn't imagine it. But could he be caught up in it in some way? Yes.
Oh, so this one's a little bit more modern. 2006.
Over Dylan.
The friendship between Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold has been heavily studied. Known for enacting the Columbine Massacre, Harris and Klebold killed a total of 14 people, including one victim that died from her injuries in 2025. The boys met in middle school and developed a hatred for the world as they grew older. Harris was described as being manipulative and controlling, a true psychopath.
He didn't nearly have the simmering anger that he did later on, by any means. I think he was a different person. Columbine changed me. I know it changed him, obviously. But I don't think he was nearly as psychotic as he turned out to be.
In contrast, Klebold was more depressive and self-loathing, his vulnerability a tool for Harris. They fueled each other's rage, and their hatred for the world exploded on that fateful April day in 1999. Most psychologists now believe that the shooting was born out of a desire to cause as much pain as possible, both physically and mentally.
Eric's secret journals and video recordings leave the clear impression of a disturbed mind, filled with grandiose and destructive schemes. Dylan, however, is a mystery.
William Burke and William Hare.
The body was
Wow, so I'm assuming they, pew-pewed a school. That's what it looked like. I don't feel like they got into much detail on what happened, but that's what it looked like. That's always very, very sad, and I really hate that happens. It just really breaks your heart. I feel like the whole world or United States just kind of crumbles when a situation like that happens, and it pulls at our heartstrings, especially us as parents, because it's scary to know that this happens and that your kids go to school and that this could possibly happen to them one day. It's heartbreaking. I also read an article not too long ago, probably about maybe a year ago, saying that the US had the highest school, attacks in the world, which is pretty crazy. So I do feel like there needs to be more things implemented. And I'm not even talking about, we need to search every kid's backpack. We need to have, scanner. We don't need to turn our schools into prisons. It's already kind of set up like a prison already. So we don't need all of that security, and we need to, you know, have you walk through a metal detector. Like, we don't want to make our schools like prisons any more than we already do. But I think that better gun laws should be put in place so children and teenagers cannot access them. Like, I also think it's crazy that these teenagers can get these military guns, these AR-15s, whatever they're called, and it's just so easy for them because you don't need a license, you don't need anything to get them. And that's crazy to me. Of all guns, you should have to have a license. You should have some type of, I don't know, psychological test done to make sure that you're mentally stable. And to own one of these guns, I don't really see why you need to have one, but if you do, you should be mentally stable. So I do think that should be a law of some sort. I'm not really big into all that, but I do think that's something that they should do. Let's go ahead and get into the rest of these.
Edited by Dr. Knox himself, who didn't ask any questions about where it came from, and authorised a payment of £7.10.
William Hare ran a
1979.
lodging house in
Wow, this is
Edinburgh,
old.
and it's there that he met William Burke. At the time, Edinburgh was going through a shortage of medical cadavers. So when a tenant of Hare's passed away, they sold her body to anatomist Robert Knox. He paid them the modern equivalent of £800. Realizing that there was good money in supplying cadavers to medical schools, the duo embarked on a murder spree, killing and selling a total of 16 people.
Oh, wow.
Curious irony of legend that these two men, who became a byword for body snatching and grave robbing as prototype resurrectionists, actually never robbed a single grave or dug up a single body themselves. They simply created corpses.
Their friendship wasn't one of love or companionship, but pragmatic criminal intent. This is mirrored in their fates. Hare testified against Burke in exchange for immunity and left Edinburgh. Burke was hanged. His skeleton, ironically, given to the Edinburgh Medical School.
As
Surely
it
Dr.
should.
Knox must have known that the bodies brought to him by Burke and Hare had been murdered.
No. I think you could say that quite categorically, no. I think
That's pretty crazy. I feel like things like that still happen. Maybe not so much like selling bodies to be studied or whatever, because these schools are probably, you know, very hip to what's going on, and they probably have so many standards and protocols that they have to follow these days. But I know, like, the organ donor things, I know all of that is still very much real. So I wouldn't be surprised if things like this happened maybe in other countries. I wouldn't say so much the US, because we have high standards on a lot of things, but maybe in other countries I could see stuff like this happening, because we know, like, the organ thing, like people taking people's lives to sell their organs, we know that's a thing. So that's very similar to this, I feel like. But that's another really old one.
Nearly 6,000 pounds of simple ammonium nitrate fertilizer he and Terry Nichols had legally bought in stores.
Old Army buddies, Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols met while serving at Fort Benning in Georgia. Although Nichols was much older, they developed a connection during basic training and bonded over their shared hatred of the American government.
The Turner Diaries was just the kind of book that he was looking for, because it was a book about gun rights, it was a book about hatred for the U.S. government, and it was also a book about a terrorist act.
These opinions were fueled throughout the early 90s following disastrous events like Ruby Ridge and Waco, events which they perceived as gross federal overreach. As such, they conspired to teach the government a lesson, and on April 19, 1995, they enacted the Oklahoma City bombing. The Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building was destroyed by a homemade truck bomb, killing 168 people and injuring hundreds more. To date, it is the deadliest domestic terror attack in American history.
McVeigh's decided that his bomb must be set to cause maximum casualties. He believes that while the government can rebuild bricks and mortar, it's only when lives are lost in great numbers that the justice of his cause, that the federal government is totally out of control, will be recognized.
Tomás de Torquemada and Queen Elizabeth I of Castile.
Having been the childhood
this one is
confessor
super
to the
old. This is
devoutly
probably the
Catholic
oldest one on the
Isabella,
list.
Torquemada's influence over the
most
Queen was
evil
enormous,
men and
and they
women in
shared one
history.
obsession: religious purity and the threat of heresy.
Tomás de Torquemada worked as a trusted spiritual advisor and the personal confessor to Queen Isabella I of Castile.
I've heard about
Isabella
her.
married King Ferdinand II of Aragon, and together they worked to consolidate their kingdoms and unify Spain under a single faith, Roman Catholicism.
They wanted to unite religions in Spain, and of course, the power was at the hand of the Christians. But cultural union wasn't achieved, and religious union wasn't achieved either, because there were three religions in Spain: the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews.
Torquemada used his personal and spiritual connections to Isabella to sway political policy and develop his new role as Inquisitor General of Spain. As such, the three played a large role in the Spanish Inquisition, with Torquemada serving as its primary enforcer. They rooted out those who secretly practiced other faiths, often subjecting people to torment. Thousands were killed throughout the Inquisition's 350-year history, with about 2,000 deaths coming from Torquemada's time alone.
Certainly Torquemada was the decision behind
I feel like the queens, like during that time where there's queens and kings, from things I have read, there are a lot of queens out there that were doing some very crazy things and taking a lot of lives. I feel like I remember, I don't remember her name, but I feel like there was one that used to take babies and use their, you know, their blood, and she used to bathe in it, because I feel like, if I'm correct, she either bathed or she ate them, one of the two, because apparently she believed that it would make her stay younger and look younger. So I remember that one, which was pretty crazy. There was some other queens out there that were doing some crazy things as well. Maybe I'll find a video on that later on and we'll watch that. Let's go ahead and get back into it.
Both educated in France, Pol Pot and Khieu Samphan were both heavily influenced by anti-colonialism and radical socialism. When Pot rose to leadership in the Communist Party of Kampuchea, Samphan became one of his closest and most loyal allies. Together, they ran Democratic Kampuchea, with Samphan playing the loyal and intellectual subordinate to Pot's totalitarian leadership.
Here they interrogated anyone who they considered to be an enemy of the state, which seemed to be just about everyone.
How many people were killed here? How many people died?
It's more than 20,000 people.
20,000?
Will die in this prison.
Together, they orchestrated one of the deadliest genocides of the 20th century. In their attempt at making a classless and agrarian utopia, millions were forced to farm under horrific conditions. Starvation and disease ran rampant, and an estimated 1.7 to 2.2 million people died, or roughly 1/4 of the entire country. Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels.
Hitler in the bunker is a sad and pathetic and lonely figure. He's been deserted by almost all the other senior Nazis. He views this as the greatest betrayal.
This was a true
There's
psychopath.
one person who stays with him to the end, and that person is Goebbels.
After meeting Adolf Hitler in 1926, Joseph Goebbels, already a devout Nazi, became fervent. He admired the man to an extreme degree, even describing him in messianic terms. Hitler, in turn, gave Goebbels unprecedented access to both his personal and political life. He made Goebbels the Reich Minister of Propaganda and trusted him implicitly to shape the narrative of the Third Reich.
Joseph Goebbels was brilliant at his job. He starts using simple imagery, simple wording, and he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew his audience.
He was also one of the very few people with personal access to Hitler, especially as he became more isolated during the war. And unlike many of Hitler's allies, Goebbels remained loyal until the end, refusing to abandon his leader and taking his own life shortly after Hitler did the same.
Disgusting.
Their relationship was one of the darkest examples of authoritarian influence in history.
This is a godless religion, Nazism, and it has its messiah in the form of Hitler, but you can certainly see Goebbels as perhaps
I
the
can't
highest
believe
priest
this ever even
in this
happens.
religion.
I can't even believe that happens. Like, that, the Holocaust was just crazy. It was a very crazy thing that happened. You know, they killed so many people, you know, children, women, men, the elderly, just because of they were Jewish. Like, that's so sad. And I hate thinking of things like that, like even back to slavery and things like that. Like, I watch some of these movies with my daughter just to make her aware of what it was like back then, so I know that she will never become one of these people with all this hate in her heart. I remember we watched this movie, was it like The Boy in Striped Pajamas or something like that? I can't remember exactly what it was called, but we watched it in school to kind of learn about the Holocaust and things that happened. And I think it was just from the little boy's experience, and it was super sad. Like, cried the whole time in that movie. I'm a crier. Till I watched Till with my daughter, and she was crying, I was crying. Like, I just think it's very important that we watch these movies and that we are very educated on the past and our history, because history tends to repeat itself. And I feel like if we teach our children these things and show them and let them experience how heartbreaking this stuff is, which you hate to do it, but you have to, so they can have an open heart for all types of races and all type of people. But this video is pretty crazy. People are just, I don't know what makes you lose empathy and not have empathy for people. I don't know what happened to you to make you hate people so much to do these things. And it's like, I feel like even one person, I feel like if you take one person's life, for you to be able to do it again just shows so much. Because it's like, I feel like just one person would make you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Like, it would just tear you up inside and make you go crazy because you have so much guilt for what you did. But for them to like enjoy it and find pleasure in it, that's just, I don't get it. I don't understand it, but I know it's something wrong with them. I know their brain is, you know, something's wrong with their brain, and that's why they do these things. So it's like, you can't ever, and you're never going to be able to understand these people because you're not off. You're not, you know, you're not mentally incapable of understanding. You have guilt, you have feelings, you have empathy. These people don't. It's just not there, and it's something chemically off. It's something off with them. I don't know what it is. And I just think that's why we will never completely understand why these people do what they've done. Crazy for two people like that to meet each other and be able to, you know, do these things together. Like, I don't know. I just think that's crazy, and it's a small world to be able to find someone else that has that same mindset as you when it comes to taking a life, which is really sad. I am going to post a video probably sometime this week. I might do it for True Crime Tuesday next week. But I actually, the high school I went to, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Skylar Neese, but that happened at the high school I went to, and we attended that school at the same time. I graduated the year after it happened, or the year of it that it happened. I think it was the year after it happened, or no, it was the year that it happened, because it happened that summer after I graduated. And the whole town was in an uproar, and really it was two best friends. You know, they were three best friends, and two of them got together and took out the other one, and they pretty much lived their life for months because no one could find the girl that went missing, and no one knew what happened to her. They never found her body until one of the girls ended up going crazy, probably full of guilt and remorse, and she was probably having nightmares. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if you believe in the afterlife, but I wouldn't be surprised if Skylar was haunting her and she just broke down and went insane and turned herself in, because if not, they would have probably, who knows if they would have ever found Skylar, and who knows if the girls would have ever got arrested. But I'm gonna post a video about that as well, and kind of go over that case, get into a deep dive, and it just shows that sometimes people are just sick, and sometimes it just takes one person to convince the other person to do these things. But I don't know, how do you guys feel about this video? Did you guys like it? Let me know down in the comment section. Make sure you hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more content. And I will see you guys next time.